use teacher voice. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
I can see all of you. No, good morning. Oha gozaimasu. My name is Chris Mercoliano, and first I want to thank the rain god in advance for their patience and their forbearance. All right, let's all keep fingers crossed. Yeah, and then I want to thank all of you for coming out today. Wow. And I want to welcome you to the celebration of the 20th anniversary of the Grafton Peace Pagoda. Okay. So, I know 20 years. 20 years. It's incredible.
It's a little hard to believe.
Chris, can you shouting more?
Shouting more.
Okay, we start all over again. 20 years. It really is hard to believe. But I am an old math teacher, and I double-checked the math myself. The pagoda was completed in 1993. Is that good? 1993, after 9 long, inch-by-inch years of hard work by an international army of volunteers. And 1993 plus 20 equals 2013. So there it is. It's 20, but God, it doesn't seem like it. I can remember the opening ceremony in '93, which I think many of you here today were here then too. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Again, there were just hundreds and hundreds of people from all around the world here. Weird echo. Many of them had come in the preceding days and weeks, actually, to help miraculously finish the work, just at midnight, the night before. I remember the line of parked cars stretching down Crandall Road, farther than I could see. It was just a memorable, unforgettable day. Yeah, and today is too. We have a really special program today. We have special guest speakers, special guest performers. We're in for a big treat. And then, as always, there'll be a community feast right after the festivities. So please don't go away. Now, the reason I'm your MC today is that I'm from the Free School in downtown Albany, which is about 45 minutes from here. At the Free School, and then many members of the community that grew up around the Free School, which was started in 1969. We go way back to the pagoda's early days, and we did, along with many of us here, we did quite a lot to help build this pagoda and also the temple. But before I talk about that, I want to backtrack, and for those of you who don't know the story or only know part of it, I want to very briefly tell a brief version of the story of why this magnificent stupa is here in the first place. Okay, so here's how it goes. When Jun-san was initiated into the Nipponzan Myohoji order, she and her teacher, Mikadatsu Fuji, who was nicknamed Guruji by Mahatma Gandhi, decided that Jun-san should come to the United States to support the human rights struggles of Native American peoples. And so, in 1978, Guruji, Jun-san, and a number of other Nipponzan Myohoji monks participated in what was called the longest walk, which was from Alcatraz in California to Washington, D.C. It was kind of a giant native civil rights march organized by the American Indian movement. And when they reached Washington on the last day of the march, of the walk, Guruji delivered a speech at the Capitol in Washington in which he kind of summarized his thinking, his reasoning for sending Jun-san to us. And at the very end of the speech, right almost at the end of his speech, he said, and quoting him, "The religious faith that Native Americans have carried down to this day will be the source for creating lasting peace in the future." Oh, I'll read it again. Gotta do it in 10 minutes. "The religious faith that Americans have carried down to this day will be the source for creating lasting peace in the future." Amen. So, anyway, on the walk, Junsan became good friends with AIM co-founder Dennis Banks. They walked 3,000 miles together. They had plenty of time to get to know each other. And so then, fast forward to 1984. I'm going to speed up here. In 1984, Dennis was being given sanctuary by the Onondaga Nation because the government was after him for his role in organizing an AIM protest in South Dakota. This brought Junsan to Albany every month to fast in front of the New York State Capitol and then pray that Governor Cuomo would respect Onondaga sovereignty and not let the state police come in and arrest him. And then Junsan would get up and walk to Onondaga and fast and pray for Dennis, and then she would turn around and walk back to Albany, and just repeat the cycle. And this action, Junsan's action, got the attention of an old activist here in Grafton named Hank Hazelton. God rest his soul. And Hank had started an organization called RAIN, Rights for All Indigenous Nations, and to support Native, organize around Native issues, and he was also supporting Dennis. And so Junsan and Hank became friends, and this led to Hank deciding to donate this land to Nippon-zon Miyohoji so that they could build the second American Peace Pagoda. And so you see that this connection between Dennis Banks and the pagoda also is very deep and goes way back. And that's why, again, God willing, Dennis will be here to be our keynote speaker later. He's on his way. It's a very tight schedule. Okay, so now here's the free school version of, this is the way the free school connection happened is this. Whenever Junsan was in Albany, she would stay with Liz Pearson, who was, God rest her soul. Liz was an old Quaker activist, and she lived right across the street from the free school. And so one morning, the free school founder, Mary Loya, who's now 93 and going strong, she lives over in the Berkshire, she couldn't come today, but she's 93. Mary and I were standing out front of the school, and we saw Junsan coming down, leading Liz's. And Junsan got to the bottom of the steps, she took out a drum, she blessed the house, and Mary and I looked at each other and said, oh my God, she must be part of that religious group that we had seen in New York City when we took free school kids to the Nuclear Freeze March in 1982. And so Mary ran over and grabbed Junsan and introduced it, and said, come, you have to come and see our school. And Mary came over to the school. Junsan came over to the school and visited for a bit. And I just want to say one thing, that what I noticed right away is that the children were very drawn to Junsan because of the way, she has this way of respecting children and loving them unconditionally that they're just so drawn to. So Junsan kept coming to visit whenever she was in town. She would bring the kids books and videos about environmental issues, native issues, Big Mountain and so on. And then the kids sometimes would go over and sit with her at the Capitol. And then one day Junsan told Mary and me that she had this idea to build a giant stupa out in Grafton using only volunteer labor. And Mary's spirit is just as huge as Junsan's and her determination. So Mary was just like, oh wow, that's great. And don't hesitate to let us know when you need help. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, this is totally insane. Madness. But anyway,